Welcome to Positive Talk Radio. We're glad you're here. I'm Kevin McDonald, your host for this grand adventure, and I thank you for joining us. You see, our mission is to create a positive, personal connection to all things with courage and love. We invite terrific guests, interesting topics, and great conversation, all in a fun, entertaining way. And we always manage to learn something, too. So I hope you will stay right where you are for this episode of Positive Talk Radio. And welcome everybody to Positive Talk Radio. I hope everybody's well today. It's December now. It's cold. It's not as cold in some places as others, as we were talking about, but today we are stuck between Thanksgiving and New Year's. So I was thinking that it would be good to have somebody talk to us about what we're going to do after we put on the 8 pounds or so that statistically you put on between Thanksgiving and New Year's. And his name is Adrian Ceja, right? Ceja? Yes. And he is a fitness coach. He is an awareness coach and a nutrition coach, and he helps people get back to where they belong. If you look at him, you say, well, of course, he's all that fit and stuff, so he should be, in that line of work. But so welcome, Adrian, to the show. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. So timely, right, to have this type of coach on your show right in between
at this time of year. You know, not only do we have the COVID-10 or the COVID-12 or the COVID-50, and we've also got, now that we're kind of breaking out of that a little bit and everybody's trying to get back together again, we're full of pumpkin pie and turkey and stuffing and then Christmas and then New Year's. And then at one point in New Year's, we say to ourselves, I have to do some New Year's resolutions. And then, of course, those last for a couple of weeks. And so that's why I wanted to talk to you, is because fitness is a year-round thing. Let's talk about you first of all. You haven't done this your entire life. What's your background? How did you get into it?
Yeah, man. I mean, every time I get asked that question, it sort of always takes me back to when I was 10 years old. When I was in high school, my grandma, she passed away from diabetes complications and all kinds of other things, how that can kind of impact your health and stuff. And so I realized down the line eventually how when I was getting into exercise and nutrition, I realized, well, wait a minute, that's something that could have been prevented or maybe even reversed a little bit and such. And so I started to really dig a little bit deeper and started to realize, these lifestyle diseases are really coming on based off of our lifestyle habits, our choices and how we eat and such and things like that. And so that was really a big stepping stone, I think, for me. Of course, I was in high school, and then of course I went down the educational route and stuff, and really started to feel this compelled and this compelled conviction to really help people take their life back, and to educate people on this, because I was so sold out. I was like, people need to know this stuff. People need to know that, hey, we can be in great health with just a little bit of knowledge, but then of course applying it at the same time.
You just said the magic word, applying. A lot of us have got an idea of what good health looks like.
Right.
Some of us have actually even had it in the past, but it's hard to make that change and to make it permanently. And when you said your grandmother who had diabetes and ended up passing away, and I can understand why that would motivate you, because, as you know, type 2 diabetes is by and large a very preventable disease.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, if you can work with nutrition and diet and exercise and eating the right things and stuff, there's also a motivational factor there that needs to come into play. Yeah. I know you're working with it all, so congratulations on that. Now you're a young man. You can't be unless you unless you tell me like you're 64 or something like that, I'm going to say you're what, late 20s, early 20 minutes, I don't know.
I'm 32 actually.
Oh, very
32.
nice.
And you know what's funny is that when I was in my 20s, I thought, man, I'm so late in the game. But now that I'm 32, I'm like, you know what? I was like, I'm actually, you know, exact. I am, I believe, where I'm supposed to be right now. I would
Yes.
say before, I'm not where I once was, but I'm also not yet where I want to be. And so, yes, I did get started early. But then I didn't realize that it was early. I was just really passionate about it and just wanting to get it out, and just wanting to share it. I'll share this part too, just really quickly. When I was 10 years old, I was in a car accident, and I was impacted by a car accident because I ended up flying out of the seat and hitting and cracking the windshield.
Wow.
We think later on down the line that that it had impacted. There was some kind of like brain impactment, I guess, and so because I ended up coming down with a speech impediment, and so that was a thing that we thought, oh, it's just a little kid thing, you know, it'll go away, but it never did. And in fact, when I spoke to a speech pathologist, she said that that's one of the ways that people come down with the stutters is by impact to the head. And so when I would speak on fitness and nutrition and things that I loved, I would have people's attention. But before I was insecure to even speak on certain things because I would stutter. And so people didn't really have the patience to listen to me other than when it came down to this. So I truly feel like fitness and nutrition, all this stuff has been healing for me in that sense. It's been able to sort of like put what I'm passionate about at the forefront as opposed to the insecurity at the forefront and being concerned or worried that I would stutter or whatever it is. And so it makes no sense that I would speak today or that I would coach today and stuff, you know. So it's been a crazy journey, as we were mentioning just
Well,
before we.
I'll tell you, you do not. I could never have guessed that at one time that you had trouble speaking. How did you cure yourself?
I think it was just the combination of a lot of, you know, personal self talk, a lot of my own faith, a lot of just yeah, self talk, and really trying to see myself in the form of what I'm supposed to be doing. I think I forgot who said this, but somebody said like a lot of times when you focus on just on your faults or the things that you can't do, so to speak, then it kind of just puts more attention on those things. I really started to focus outwardly and started to focus, okay, focus on the people that you're serving, focus on the message, focus on the mission. And so you start to focus less on yourself and less on the things that you feel insecure about.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you are. It matters what you can say and how you can help other people.
Yeah.
And so when you're focused on that, I can see that the information that you have is so important for you to get out that you can get rid of the um the stuttering or the vocal stuff that was going on. Was it now you had obviously when you hit the windshield, you had a concussion at 10. You must have.
I don't. We don't remember. I don't remember. Next thing, maybe next thing I remember is I was on the curb, and there were like paramedics around me and stuff, and they're asking my mom like, "Hey, should we take him into the hospital?" And it's funny because I joke like my mother. She's a great mother, but for some reason I have my seatbelts on, right? But so there were paramedics around me and stuff, and for some reason we said no, I'll be fine because I felt okay, you know, but there was an internal thing that we believe there was some damage, and you know,
Well, it's
that
something
was.
you always got to be careful because concussions can be a hidden thing. And because if you're still walking around and stuff, but you were clearly knocked out for a period of time.
I think so. Yeah.
But congratulations! I'm glad you're back. By the way, I could be your daddy. I just thought I'd tell you that. Because you're at 32 years of age, you've got so much more to give, so much more of life to offer. And congratulations on the things that you've done. Let's talk about
Thank
your work, what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you doing?
What am I doing these days?
Yeah.
Sorry, you said in regards to my work, you said?
Yeah. What are you doing to help people? I know you're a fitness coach
Yes.
and you're a
Yes.
nutritional coach and you're
Yeah.
starting an online business and you're doing all kinds of stuff. What is your goal for yourself?
Yeah. So I operate a fitness and nutrition coaching company of one-on-one and online. And one of the things I see down the line as, over the years that I've been really noticing and really seeing and recognizing how much fitness and nutrition goes down to mindset. And it comes down to our day-to-day habits and our lifestyle. It's not just this quick hit into the gym, it's not just this quick setting up a goal and stuff, but it's very culture shocking for a lot of people. And so I think over the years I've grown really passionate in transformation and the process of change and what gets people to change, what gets people from A to B. Like, what does that process look like? How do you help somebody overcome, insecurities and imposter syndrome? So I've fallen in love with transformation at a deeper level, the psychology of it. And so I see myself doing a lot more of that. I guess you can call it life coaching, or if you will. Doing a lot more of that, and I do speak a little bit here and there, but I do see myself doing a lot more of that, and a lot more online programs, and also some seminar workshop type of events as well.
There's a whole different level of coaching when you start getting into motivational coaching and understanding why the brain works the way it does, helping people understand their stories that they tell themselves and have
Yeah,
told themselves for like ever, and how to change those stories so that they can get out of their own way to make some real positive differences in their life. And that's
yeah.
where I see you going.
And I've seen just the stories that I hear, like every person is unique. Every person has their own story, their own, I used to be like this, but now this is the reality of my life today with, I've had a family, my career is this, my work life is this, and how it's impacted their day-to-day life. It's like we pursue so many different things, but we don't consider the day-to-day physical toll that our body takes. And this is not even including stress, which is a whole different thing, and then the day-to-day choices that we make in regards to our food. But we want sustained energy and we want to feel good and to live well and stuff, but we're not doing all the things, all the way, the things that we can be doing to improve our day-to-day health, to see these things come to pass and to see these things move forward.
One of the things that I've found in the research that I've done is that eating healthy is hard. It's so much easier to go through the drive-through at McDonald's. I'm
Yeah.
telling you. But being able to eating healthy and even understanding what healthy is, if you go to the diet section of any library, you'll find books that say no carb, lots of carb, some of this, none of that. Don't do this, have that. And how do you know where to turn? What do you how do you go through all of that stuff to find what's right for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's a question that I think many people actually wonder about, but it really does come down to the individual person. There's no one best diet for all people because there's so many different factors that play a role, so many different variables. I mean, the lifestyle of the person. Do they want to increase in weight? Do they want to lose weight? Their health history, their day-to-day life. And so there's all kinds of different things. So really just come down to the ultimate person. And we really have to stand guard at where these marketing tactics are really trying to get at. I don't think all people, but I think the vulnerable people. So the people who just want to believe everything, and the people who've tried it all, and oh, this is another quick fix, and then we come across a new fad and a new thing that trainers can easily debunk. So it really just does remove the work aspect, or it removes the mindset aspect. No matter what, any direction you go in terms of the diet approach that you want to take. It's going to take some intentionality, and it's going to take some preparation and a little bit of learning and stuff. But there are still fundamentals though, and there's still some foundational things, and those foundations are you having your protein? Are you having your complex carbohydrates? And it doesn't necessarily mean just rice and potatoes and things like that. But complex carbs can also come from starchy vegetables and fruits and things like that. Are you having your healthy fats? And that can come from different oils and nuts and avocados and things like that. So I think we see it very one-dimensional, and I think it's a little bit more broader than that.
It is. It does seem to be because it's a real science when you get down to it of how to put it together and how to make it so that you can do it on a long-term basis.
Yeah, exactly. And the interesting thing also is that like nutrition is simple. It's really simple. The hard thing about it though is what we're just used to. Some people are used to having a certain, breakfast every morning. Some people are used to that sugary coffee with their Danish or with their croissant in the morning for years. And so all of a sudden you have this trainer say like, hey, we're going to do this, right? And so to them it's like culture shocking, and it's a little bit fearful. So, but those are the kind of things though that people would need to at least face. But here's my strategy as a coach. I've had a client one time. Can I share this really fast?
Please.
I've had a client one time, and I mean, she was the typical Starbucks every single morning of a latte, whatever, 7 pumps of the syrup and all that, right? And so the only reason I'm familiar is because I have to look these things up, and I'm like, well, I'm curious, what's the number of calories or the grams in this thing? And it's not easy to find, to be honest. Like, I was going through different blogs and what does this person say? So I had to bring all the information together, do a calculation, realizing that this drink, was close to 800, 900,000 calories in a drink. It is crazy. Yeah. And so,
well, I understand why I can't lose weight. Yeah.
It's nuts. Yeah. Well, at the same time, she says, oh, I don't really get hungry in the morning though. Of course you don't, because you're having, almost 1,000 calories of liquid calories, which, by the way, does need to get metabolized, and it does provide some kind of like fullness or satiety to where you feel like you don't need food. And so anyway, with her, she was already fearful that I was going to like take that away from her. And so I knew what I had to do. I said, okay, this is a person who is going to be very challenging just from here to just drastic change. I knew it was not going to happen. So I said, hey, you know what? Let's do this. Would you be willing and able? Because when you coach somebody, the psychology of the words and how you phrase things really do matter. And so I said, would you be willing and able to at least reduce the size? And she said, oh, yeah, that's easy. So I said, great. That's progress. You're probably cutting back, several hundred calories in that entire week. And then we said, okay, great. And then eventually, do you see yourself maybe going, every other day having this drink? And she said, oh, like, I think so, yeah. So there was this willingness already. So I caught her buy-in a little bit. There was this willingness. And then from there, she had less of a dependency on this high sugary drink. And so she was able to make these changes gradually. And that's the best form of transformation. Change has to be gradual and has to be incremental. And so eventually she was able to totally get off of it. And now she just does like a cold brew with like some almond milk and maybe like a low fat foam or something like that. But it's a drastic change. So just by that, her health was able to turn around drastically.
Well, just in eliminating that particular drink alone for a week is like, what is that? 7,900. That's like 6,500 calories or something in a week, which is 2 pounds all by itself.
It was nuts, and that's not the first person that I've had to sort of maneuver this conversation with.
Well, how do you get folks that like my son is what I call a pizza-holic.
Pizza-holic. Sounds like fun.
It is. he'll have pizza like 3 or 4 or 5 days a week just because it's easy. He likes the bread, and all of that. How do you get somebody off of that into a more well-rounded diet that makes sense?
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting because depending on the person's lifestyle factors and their goals are and things like that, I mean, there has to be some form of education, some form of knowledge into that eating style or what they're having. But there also needs to be some level of desire. So hopefully, through the education, through the knowledge, there starts to become this desire of wanting to get healthier and wanting to feel better and stuff. So there's a little bit of like motivational factors there for them to want to feel better and say if there's like an athlete or something and they're having that type of diet, it's like, hey, what if you were able to perform, significantly more than what you're doing now? This is how you'll do it. Cut back on that pizza, and start to have more of these foods and things like that. So a little bit of the desire and motivational factors.
I have a personal story I'd like to share with you, and I'm hoping that you can help me.
Sure. Let's hear it.
When I was a kid, I was an athlete. I was on the football team. I was on the wrestling team. I was on the basketball or baseball team, and I played catcher for like 10 years and so forth. And so through my 20s and into my 30s, I was just fine. Thank you very much. But unfortunately, my family has got a kind of a congenital low back problem, and so I threw my back out and pulled a couple of of discs out and ended up having to have back surgery at 35, 36, something like that. And then so I had the back surgery and wasn't able because I hurt it playing basketball. So I was still active at the time. And but then I had to quit that and because of the back surgery. And then I had the back surgery. I started to heal. And by the way, if you have a pain in your leg that's kind of in your groin and it doesn't go away, don't have a bunch of MRIs. Go to a hip doctor, and he'll tell you immediately what the problem is. And so so he said, well, you know what, your hip is gone. So I had to turn around and have hip replacement surgery. And so after that was 100 pounds and stuff because I couldn't do anything anymore. And so consequently, it's been, kind of a downward spiral ever since. How would you get an old guy like me now I've had both my hips replaced. I've had back surgery. I've had stomach surgery. I've had elbow surgery. I've had my rotator cuff had to be surgically repaired. How would you get my sorry ass back into shape?
Wow. Okay. So I want to preface this like that. I don't think I'm challenged in the way that I would help, but I'm a little bit challenged in how open I can be and how vulnerable you're willing to be.
Well, let me just say that you would be the first one that made me vulnerable at all at the same time. I'm perfectly, and if my point here is, if I can help somebody else who's my age that has gone through a similar set of calamities in their life and they've had a bunch of surgeries and stuff, and we can help them feel a little bit better, I'm willing to put myself on the altar of shame for that purpose.
to help those people, right?
Yeah, well, and also while I'm there, I might as well help myself on the
Yeah.
altar of shame.
Yeah.
So yes.
Man, this so if I were to assess you, let's say if we were on a coaching call, we were on a consultation call, I would ask what some of your goals are. Not that you have to answer them right now, but I would ask what some of your goals are, and then we would start to move in that direction because we have to start with some sort of vision, some sort of something that we're shooting for, and then start to work our way there incrementally. So obviously, since these surgeries that you've had, your lifestyle maybe by default you're a little bit more sedentary, right? And then so even just by you getting up, doing something, even if it like from an athlete to doing something small, but you might have been used to like bigger exercises, that's something small could still work because it builds enthusiasm and it builds momentum. And sometimes just when we have that small momentum, it's going to help us to move forward. Also, I would look at the eating as well. The eating is going to play a huge role, especially because we're expending less calories if we're living a sedentary lifestyle, so we're not burning as much calories, right? And then so I'd really look at the nutrition and then start to either do some kind of like elimination diet, meaning like what foods can we start to take out and put in, things like that. And then I really help you from a more of a mental aspect, really start to break down a larger goal into smaller steps. Hey, this week we're just gonna focus on this, and that's all. Because sometimes if we can take it in bite-sized pieces, it's a lot more helpful. So some form of exercise, even if you can't get up, doing some kind of bike, if you could get up, maybe doing some squats on and off the couch. Watching the diet a little bit. There's some exercises off of the floor, maybe if we need to, some light core stuff, some stabilization based exercises, just to get the muscles to function and to move and to keep them primed and to let them know, like, hey, we still need you to burn some calories. And I think just with those small steps, starting to reverse it backwards, I think will be helpful.
Well, it's interesting because there are a lot of folks that are in my position that just now see in your world. It's hard for you to conceptualize the fact that I'm 64. I'll be totally open with you. I'm 64. My brother passed away last year at 64. My best friend in high school passed away also last year. He was 63, which is what I was at the time. And there are lots and lots of folks when you get to be my age. I don't know if you watch or listen to the news when they're talking about somebody that famous passed away. You'd be amazed how many are my age or a little bit younger, and that are dying. And so my executive producer said to me one day, she said, "Well, we need to set this up so that if you die, this doesn't go away." So it's like, what do you think? Am I on the brink? And she was, she was a funeral director in the past. She said, I've seen worse go faster. So I really, what I really need is to have someone like you who can help me. As an example, if I were to go get on the floor, I can't get up. And because of my shoulders and my arms, and so I guess at my age, I would need a geriatric coach. Is there such a thing as an old person health and wellness coach? If you want the job, you can have it.
Based off of their experience, I mean, there definitely can be somebody who specializes in people who fall under the geriatric population, probably.
That's what we is.
Actually, my very first exercise class that I taught was in front of a whole bunch of seniors who were like 70 and 80.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so that's kind of funny. Oh, actually, when I interned at the community college that I went to, I interned in some class. It was called Adaptive Physical Education. Gosh, this was 10, 11 years ago. It was called Adaptive Physical Education. And so the students were handicapped in some way.
Uh-huh.
Some were maybe 50, 60, guys who just newly just came from the hospital. They were put into this program that I was a student of. They came into this program, and so the students studying exercise science were putting together exercise programs for these people who just recently had a stroke of some sort. So they were impacted in their mobility and things like that. Many of them, if not most, were in wheelchairs. So that was challenging. I mean, going from a young guy, early 20s, and just being used to just, squats and deadlifting and going heavy in the weight and all that stuff to somebody in a wheelchair was challenging. But it was incredible to see the change that was happening by just their effort they were putting in. There was some type of cognitive, recognition that and this awareness that they knew that the state that they were in, and I almost kind of felt like they felt like they were a burden to us.
We do.
So how
Yep.
so how crazy it was to even they were working fairly recently, then all of a sudden in a stroke, and now in this program, and they're not able to speak correctly. They can't stand up and walk and such. But we were able to see some massive improvement in a lot of these people, and it's inspiring. And so it makes me even want to say, like, man, like, there's just so many things in my past that I can kind of connect current things to, and into the things that I've seen. People have a hard time with making a lot of excuses, but I think it goes even deeper for some people. Some people are good at justifying their excuses, and that's a whole different level. It's like, how do we get somebody from that depth of their excuse into
Have you been in my house? What's the matter?
No, I've just been around a lot of people.
We all justify when we've got an issue. We all justify why we have that issue and why we can't make changes. But at the end of the day, I know a guy. He's a multimillionaire. He has a life coach. He has a business coach. He's got a physical coach, because you can't do it yourself. You can't do all of this stuff yourself, and that's why I was bringing all that up, is because you find a guy like me, and I desperately need a coach, either online or in person, that understands my particular. My older sister, who's even worse than I am, she went to the doctor and said, "Well, should I get physical therapy?" And the doctor said, "Nope, don't go to one of those places, because they don't know how to treat an old person who's infirmed like you are, and how to go from where she is in her infirmity to being a little bit better for her, not to try and be able to squat 300 pounds in 6 months, but just to get more mobility and stuff like that. That takes a special education as well, I would think.
Yeah, there's definitely certain levels to touch on. I mean, it's the person's fitness level. That's one of the things that I do too. We have to mirror the person where they're at first. What are their limitations? What are their limiting factors, and how can we work around that to build something that's progressive?
See, and I really like the fact that you're doing stuff on Zoom and remotely, because the last time I walked into a gym, I walked out because everybody was so pretty. Everybody looked so pretty and so young, and he was the fat white guy trying to go do something, and it didn't work out. So if you could do something at home, and you can get the equipment that you need at home, and get somebody that knows what they're doing to talk to you, and you can do it remotely, that makes a tremendous amount of sense to me. So I think that's a really good business model for you to do.
Yeah. It's been good. I think people are loving it. Obviously, I think the pandemic kind of really positioned, online training really well,
Yeah. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you and they would like you to train them, and it's remotely, say they're from Seattle like I am, or back east or whenever, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can follow me anywhere at official Adrian Ceja. They'll find me there. My website is also officialadrianceja.com. They can
Beautiful
find
website,
me
by the way.
officialadrianceja.com.
Yeah.
And then,
I was looking at that earlier. It's a beautiful website. You do a good job.
Thank you. To me, it's a little bit outdated, man. I want to update it, because there's so many things that I can implement and add and stuff. So we're working on it. I have my guy working on it, but thank you though. But yeah, anywhere at official Adrian Ceja, they can find me.
Let's just say that again slower.
Official Adrian Ceja.
Very good. And you spell Ceja, Ceja.
Yes.
It will confuse you.
CEJA.
Yes. Adrian say Adrian has been is our guest today, and he is a nutrition coach. He's also a physical coach, and I sense that you're going to work your way into being a motivational coach, and you're going to be speaking to a lot of large groups about being motivated to change your life.
Yes. Catch me in Seattle. All of them be there.
when we get have a meeting where we have a bunch of folks in a room, when you betcha we'll
Let's
have
do it. Awesome.
because I'll tell you, when you get to be someone like in my age group, you really have to decide whether or not, really honestly, you have to decide whether or not you're going to live or die. And because you can live, there are folks that live a lot longer, but especially being a guy, we don't as much. So that's so it's really great that you're working with people the way you do. There isn't a lot of folks that want to work with the older folks, at least as far as I know of. So I need to hire someone like you. But yeah, I imagine your schedule is fairly busy.
My schedule is busy because I keep it busy. So it's flexible when I want to make it flexible, and then it's free when I want to make it free.
Oh, that's cool.
Huh?
That's good. That's cool that you have control of your own schedule, so that you don't overburden yourself, and you can have balance in your life.
And that's a whole nother thing that I think is becoming much more it's been a theme in my life lately. I think self-care is also another thing that's not really talked about in the health and fitness space. And I operate this coaching business and stuff, and I have many clients who are successful business owners, and there's this correlation, or there's these themes that I see. It's like, man, like, we really need to understand and really implement stress prevention strategies or stress management type of techniques, because that also impacts our health. And though I'm the coach and I teach this and I coach people in this, I need to take care of myself in that sense too, because I'm highly ambitious and I can go. If anything, you got to stop me from working, but I can keep going. But I had to implement, because I learned the hard way. I had to implement this routine or this rhythm in my life of like, okay, so this is work, right? And then, but you still have to have a day, or I still had to have a day where I needed to just step back and say, okay, today's going to be a rest day, recovery day. Let me do something that I can enjoy and stuff, because it really does help you rejuvenate.
It does, and you need to. Balance is a key, and it's great that you found that out at a young age. But you're still, you still work very hard at what you do,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you're very gifted at what you do. And I implore everybody to go to your website, which again is
Official AdrianCeja.com, or anywhere on social media, official Adrian Ceja.
now. Do you spend a lot of time on social media?
According to my metrics, when I check online, I do.
Doesn't feel like it, but I know you.
But you know what though? On Instagram, there's actually this setting that you can set up sort of like an allotted time where you're able to be on the app. And I set mine for an hour a day. I mean, oftentimes I go over and way over, but at least it sort of helps me to sort of discipline my time on social media, doing less consuming and more producing and coaching.
Yes, if you had your way, what type of coach would you be the most successful at?
Man, I think I'd be a really good life coach, transformation coach, because I've always had this thing about me where people find it easy for them to talk to me. I've always gotten that even when I was in high school for some reason. Maybe I'm understanding why now. But I love getting deep with people. I think that it's powerful, but I think I truly just have that gift in me where because of the weakness that I had not being able to speak before when I was young, I think it's become a superpower for me now, and it's become a strength for me now because, as a default, because I felt like I couldn't speak, I listened well, and I've always loved words and big words and how people spoke, and how people would transition from one point to the next, or how people would make points. I was always so fascinated by it, and I think it was a default. It was a default for me because I couldn't speak, so I would listen really well. So I think that's where that kind of comes from. And then I'm able to sort of gather all that data and say, okay, here's our action step. In a
Well,
sense.
and the cool thing is that people, most people are interested in positive change, and transforming themselves from where they are to where they truly would like to be, because most people are not where they think they'd like to be.
Mm-hmm.
And they come up with all kinds of excuses and reasons and stories as to why they're not where they want to be.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they need somebody to say, you know what, maybe you should drop the stories, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
we should create some new stories, some stories that benefit you, not the ones that tear you down.
Yes. Create a new story, start a new chapter. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because a lot of people have got stories there's a story that I like to tell about my mother-in-law, who was adopted, and she was adopted in 1932.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's before my time, and but in 1932, a 16-year-old girl that was pregnant was ostracized and generally had to leave home and had to go to a home, and it was terrible, and she had no way of making any money, so she gave up the baby for who was my ex-wife's mother, gave up the baby for adoption. Well, she spent her entire life lamenting the fact that she was adopted, saying that nobody loved her because she was adopted. She wasn't part of the family that she was adopted into because she was adopted. So she took that, and rather than changed it into, I was so lucky that my 16-year-old mother gave me up to be in the home I was, to have the relatives I have, to have the family I've got, and everything is wonderful. She took it as, I'm not as good as. She took that to her grave. And it was an unbelievably sad situation for her to do that, because she had so much potential. And
Yeah.
that's why a coach like you is able to help people get rid of those stories, because the
And
stories will, go ahead.
what I've seen is people oftentimes just need a a perspective, a shift of perspective. Now, granted, of course, I mean, people have gone through some traumatic situations where of course they would need some professional help and healing and stuff, but even though so then even seeing a different perspective, I think, would allow them to at least open up this window of possibility.
The window of possibility is a huge place for you to put yourself, because everybody has a reason why they can't.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and there aren't a lot of folks that have a reason why they're going to. And it's interesting that the ones who have that ability to get through those negative things and say, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I can do and will do, like what you're doing, they tend to be successful.
Right, and many people are driven by by negative thought patterns. And in fact, Dr. Daniel Amen, who's a brain expert, he uses an acronym ANTS, automatic negative thoughts, and many people live by that. And so everything really is happening to them if they're not careful on their perspective or their the way that they're looking at life and stuff. They think that things are happening to them, and that's why their life is where it's at today and why it is the way it is and things like that. But we really have to be able to reframe that thought pattern and not always see an automatic negative thought as truth, because there's a difference. We can't be overruled by our emotions or just by thoughts on instinct.
The cool thing is what you'll be able to do with people is, because of the combination of nutrition, diet, and also physical exercise and working out and doing that, you'll be able to help them with the fourth component, which is their mental aspect of who they think they are. Because most people don't. If you were to ask them to write down who they are versus who you think they are, it's going to be a completely different thing.
Mm.
Because most people don't believe in who they really are.
Yeah.
And so someone like you can help them get to that point. That's why I see you taking your coaching business.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. That's gonna be a power packed combination, won't it?
Oh yeah.
All
Oh yeah.
that.
Because one of the things I like to say is um, your life is empty and meaningless.
Mm,
And when people say, "What the hell do you mean my life is empty and meaningless?" Well, my response to that is, well, when you get up in the morning, your life is empty for that day until you fill it up with whatever you want to. And your life is meaningless until you assign meaning to it. So assign the best meaning you can to it and fill it up with things that make you happy.
that's
Yeah.
good. That's good. Yeah, and I think it's one of the things I oftentimes will push, a healthy or an intentional start to your day first thing in the morning. I mean, people oftentimes will just run on like autopilot. It's they do nothing to fill themselves up first. I mean, at least have a cup of water. I mean, let your digestive system get some kind of purification if it needs it and stuff. But but I think because of that, we oftentimes will find ourselves serving other people and helping other people and not putting ourselves first. And I say it like that because when we just by nature, we're naturally selfish people, right? We have to be intentional about to be selfless or to serve others and etc. We kind of have to die to ourselves a little bit. And so I say that because when we're well and we have our basic needs met, we're then able to help other people. And oftentimes I have to say that to my clients who are parents who have young kids because there's this little bit of guilt in them that they're doing something for themselves. It's as if they have to completely sacrifice everything about themselves. And it's like I get it. Like you want to be there for the kids, that's great. Do that, but how much more can you give to them and impact them when you fill yourself up and when you're getting healthier and better and things like that?
Well, what you're doing is you're going to break a generational cycle. And if you decide that you're going to be healthy and you're going to take time for yourself, your kids are going to do that when they grow up too. And
That's
it's going
so
to
true.
it's going to change the generational cycle. So it really is important. It really is important. You've got from where I sit, from your position, you have got the ability to make meaningful change in a lot of people's lives.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
No, it really is cool. It's great talking to you. By the way, we've been talking with Adrian Coho. Yeah, Soho. I'm so
Say
bad
hi.
with last names. Seho, Seha,
Say
Seha,
hi. Yeah.
Seha. I knew that. I will get it eventually. If it's not phonetically spelt, I have a problem. Anyway,
Yeah.
Adrian Ceja, and go to his website again, which is
Official Adrian Ceja.
that's who you are. By the way, um, well, our time together is growing short, but I'd like to give you a couple of moments to be able to tell our audience anything that you would like them to know over the next couple of moments of what they're going to hear from you now or in the future. So,
Yeah. I would really, if you're somebody listening, I would really ask you, can you ask yourself this question? Are you truly living your life out to its truest and greatest potential and capacity? And I think that little bit of wiggle room where maybe you're not, I would do even just the little things in your day-to-day life to help you fill that gap, because I think just with that little stuff is going to help you go see your life in a whole different level. And this is, I think, in any means. I mean, some people, when they start to learn discipline and nutrition and things like that, I mean, other things just start to get much more impacted. Their day-to-day life, their discipline with their money, their spending habits and stuff. So it becomes this whole cycle, and how people are really making their daily life choices. So that little bit of gap, maybe you're kind of at 75% because you're just constantly tired all the time and you're stressed out. Sometimes the answer is not a vacation. It's not, more alcohol. It's oftentimes just getting on a good sleep rhythm. It's getting on a good routine. Get yourself in a routine and stuff, to help see things move forward. That's oftentimes where it comes down to. Most of the times it will come down to the fundamentals. If the greatest athletes in the world never negated or never took the fundamentals for granted, why is it that we do that? And it's in the most basic things.
And I'll tell you, every great athlete has got a great coach.
That's right. That's right.
In addition to their team coach, like a Russell Wilson has a Pete Carroll as an example up in Seattle, where I am. But he also's got, and I know that a lot of us can't afford to do this, but he's got his own cook who does his proper nutrition. He's got his own motivational coach. He's got his own. Wouldn't you like to have this job, being a massage therapist, and you only work on the one guy?
Yeah, it must be nice. There was this article, I think, that came out in Forbes. I think it might have been Forbes, where they were talking about LeBron James and how he spent over $1 million on just recovery alone. So recovery came in the form of his nutrition, his training, his all his recovery protocols and therapists and all that stuff. And $1 million. And yeah, of course, anybody could say, oh, well, it's LeBron James. But that's not the point, though. The point is the intention. As great as he is, he puts all this investment into something you don't necessarily see on camera, because he knows the importance of what you can do. If you can take care of yourself on the back end, you're able to perform on the front end much better.
Tom Brady's another one that does that.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's got a complete out-of-your-mind regimen that he does because he wants to play till he's 50. Yeah. And the way he's playing right now, he probably can, based upon what he's doing. And because he's made the decision. And a lot of it, isn't it, a lot of us just need to make the decision that he decided that he's going to be the best he can be. Yeah. And a lot of us are kind of waffling and, oh, I don't know, that sure seems hard. And well, if you want to make it easier, go find somebody like Adrian who can help you make it a little bit easier for you. And by the way, you've got an engaging smile, a great personality. I think you'll be great to work with.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on the show. You're making me want to go back to Seattle.
Hey, it's 42 degrees up here, so come on down.
Maybe I'll wait till next season then.
Wait till next summer. Adrian, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure having you here. I look forward to having you back. I'd like to follow your career, see where you go.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I
think that you've got an amazing, I wish I was 32 again, damn it. You've got an amazing career ahead of yourself.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And hopefully we get to circle back and I get to come back on the show and I get to give you an update.
Absolutely. And I'll try and give you one too.
There you go.
How good I'm doing too. So stay right there. I'll be right back.
Sure.
Hey, and thanks for listening to this episode all the way to the end. Hey, pretty cool. Hey, don't forget to follow us so you can receive regular updates and new posts. And remember, take care of each other because each other's all we've got. See you next time on My Independence Report.